Western instructors are teaching Ukrainian troops how to fight a war they've never fought themselves. And against all odds, it's working. This might sound like a recipe for disaster, but the reality is far more fascinating and complex than you might expect.
Everything regarding Ukraine needs to be discussed with Ukraine. We have to be part of this conversation. First of all, is ceasefire, security guarantees we need to know. By the way, President Trump has supported us today, and US is ready to support us. Second, Russia doesn't have any veto right for Ukraine members in any alliances. Third are sanctions and increasing sanctions on Russia if they are not agreeing to ceasefire. I've told the American president and all of our Europeans written, Putin is bluffing. He is trying to push all over. He is pushing all over the front line. Russia is pretending they can occupy entire Ukraine, but this is not true. Also, he is saying that sanctions are not important and they are not working. But I am sure that sanctions are effective. They are harmful for Russian economy. Yes, this is true. Russia has more weapons, especially artillery, but also they have 3 times more losses in people. I have been talking to Trump, European colleagues, that Putin doesn't want peace. He wants to occupy our country, and we understand it. Putin cannot fool us. We need to pressure him.
President Zelensky recently outlined the critical elements Ukraine needs for survival: a ceasefire with security guarantees backed by international support, Russia having no veto on Ukraine's alliance memberships, and increasing sanctions if Russia doesn't agree to peace terms. He's been crystal clear that Putin is bluffing about wanting peace. What Putin actually wants is the occupation of Ukraine. Despite Russia having 3 times more weapons than Ukraine, they're also suffering 3 times more losses, proving that sanctions are hitting Russia's war economy hard. More than 56,000 Ukrainian troops have been trained by Western allies under the UK-led Operation Interflex since June 2022. That's giving Ukraine soldiers the skills they need to survive and fight in Europe's biggest land war since World War II. But here's the twist that makes this story so remarkable. Many of the Ukrainian troops who arrive for training come straight from the front lines, fresh from trench assaults, drone strikes, and days under artillery fire. Meanwhile, some of their Western instructors have never fought in a war like the one these battle-hardened soldiers just escaped from. As Zelensky has emphasized, Putin doesn't want peace, but occupation, and he's trying to pressure on all fronts of the Ukrainian battlefield. The reality is that continued pressure through both American and European sanctions is essential for achieving genuine peace rather than capitulation. Colemer Boardman, commanding officer for Operation Interflex, told Business Insider that the UK's Ministry of Defense is well aware of this unusual dynamic. But far from being a disadvantage, he said, this mix of Western warfighting doctrine and Ukrainian battlefield experience produces tactics that are better than either side's knowledge alone. I'm conscious of our need to have credibility, even though we may not have up-to-date combat experience of this type, he acknowledged. But I don't see that as a disqualifying factor because I think we do have the institutional credibility and expertise that what we're teaching is genuinely valued. To understand why this works, we need to grasp just how different this war is from anything the West has fought in recent memory.
So, same thing with the capital. If our capital's dirty, our whole country is dirty, and they don't respect us. So it's a very good question, actually.
Mr. President, sorry. Question for you on the specific issue. Do you expect more cities to follow DC's path if this goes through? So the idea is that Chicago, LA, San Francisco, would they expect similar action what we've seen in DC? And the other question, sir, there's reporting that the administration is going to reclassify marijuana. Would that send mixed messages that if marijuana is okay, some drugs are okay, but we're trying to clean up crime? How do they go hand in hand?
We're only looking at that. That's early, but somebody reported it, which is fine. We're looking at it. Some people like it, some people hate it. Some people hate the whole concept of marijuana because if it does bad for the children, it does bad for people that are older than children. But we're looking at reclassification, and we'll make a determination over the next, I would say, over the next few weeks. and that determination hopefully will be the right one. It's a very complicated subject, the subject of marijuana. I've heard great things having to do with medical, and I've had bad things having to do with just about everything else. But medical and, for pain and various things, I've heard some pretty good things. But for other things, I've heard some pretty bad things. The other part of your question, I mean, we're just going to see what happens with it all. We're going to have a tremendous success in what we're doing. Other cities are hopefully watching this. They're all watching, just like everyone's watching here. They're all watching, and maybe they'll clean up, and maybe they'll do this and get rid of the cashless bail thing and all of the things that caused the problem. I mean, if you go back, this whole thing with cashless bail is a disaster. So many problems came that we never had before. So they're watching us today, and if they don't learn their lesson, if they haven't studied us properly, because we're going to be very successful.
The statistics are staggering. 5,000 to 7,000 people are dying every week in this conflict, mostly soldiers. Ukraine has been forced to draft 60-year-olds as the war grinds on. The financial burden is enormous, with hundreds of billions in military aid flowing to Ukraine. And critically, 88% of Ukrainians now want a negotiated settlement, a dramatic shift from the initial determination to fight at all costs 3 years ago. The West hasn't fought a major war against a powerful, industrialized military in decades. Most NATO combat experience comes from counterinsurgency and counterterrorism campaigns in Iraq and Afghanistan, where Western forces enjoyed air-sea superiority and faced smaller, less equipped adversaries. Some Interflex trainers weren't even in Iraq or Afghanistan, having joined after those conflicts ended. They're literally teaching warfare they've never experienced firsthand. Ukraine is battling one of the world's largest militaries in a grinding, high-casualty war with no control of the skies. Russia's relentless artillery fire, missile strikes, and widespread use of drones have reshaped the battlefield in ways NATO has not faced for generations, or in some cases at all. For years, Western militaries were heavily focused on counterinsurgency skills, while maintaining only a theoretical capability for large-scale war. European leaders have outlined 5 essential principles for any peace negotiations. Ukraine must have a seat at the negotiation table. A ceasefire must come first before any territorial discussions. Any territorial negotiations must start from the current contact line with no legal recognition of Russian occupation. Robust security guarantees for Kyiv must be included, and negotiations must be part of a joint transatlantic strategy. Boardman acknowledged this reality while insisting the UK never lost its capability for major operations. "I think naturally you do shape yourself for the moment," he said. "Now there's a renewed focus on combating a well-armed foe. That has meant dusting off tactics like trench warfare. Yes, World War I-style trench warfare is back, and learning as much as possible from Ukraine's frontline soldiers about emerging threats like exploding drones. But here's where the magic happens. Ukrainian soldiers bring a lot of valuable military experience to the training, according to Boardman. That experience often challenges NATO's best practices and leads to real-time adjustments in doctrine. The Western officials and instructors behind Interflex are approaching it with a humility of approach that allows us to provide our opinions and our ideas and our teaching, but also learn from some of the feedback that we get, Boardman explained. This isn't your typical military training where instructors dictate and students absorb. It's a two-way exchange where battle-tested Ukrainian soldiers are teaching their Western instructors about the realities of modern warfare. Take drone warfare, for example. Ukraine's expertise with drones, particularly first-person view attack, drones has been especially valuable. Boardman noted that while the UK has drone operators and instructors, we are not currently at war, so we are not developing them at the same pace that the Ukrainians are. Meanwhile, NATO allies are sharing their specialized skills with Ukraine. Finland, for example, brings forest warfare expertise to Interflex that Ukraine lacks, knowledge that could prove crucial in certain theaters of the conflict. Boardman explained that there's a really rich mutual understanding going on, and that the training program ends up with the sum being much greater than the parts, which is really valuable for us. The scale of this operation is staggering. Operation Interflex has become the largest military training effort on British soil since World War II. The program was originally set to train 30,000 troops by the end of 2023, but it exceeded that target ahead of schedule. By November 2024, over 50,000 Ukrainian troops had completed the training. Each recruit receives a kit allocation worth $4,500, including body armor, a fully stocked battlefield first aid kit, and winter combat clothing. The training itself has evolved based on battlefield feedback. Until 2024, a single training course lasted 35 days, but it's now been extended to 45 to 50 days to allow soldiers more time to perfect vital drills and skills. A strategic focus of Operation Interflex is on depth and quality of training. Ukraine vows it cannot match the sheer volume of conscripts that Russia is willing to pour into Ukraine as cannon fodder, so the strategy of outskilling them is deliberate. The results speak for themselves. According to official assessments, 89% of Ukrainian troops trained by the British Army under Operation Interflex felt better equipped to survive on the battlefield. Ukrainian defense forces have noted the greater fighting capacity of servicemen and women who completed the Interflex training course, along with their resilience and ability to engage hard with the enemy under bombardment. But this success comes at a cost to Western militaries. The UK's Ministry of Defence acknowledges that Operation Interflex constrains the Army's capacity to train its own soldiers, with more than a quarter of the Army's training estate being used for the program. British Army units bidding for training time in 2023 had their requests rejected, 8 times more often than in 2019 because facilities weren't available. The operation involves multiple international partners. The United Kingdom leads Operation Interflex alongside Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Norway, Finland, Sweden, Denmark, Lithuania, and the Netherlands. Romania and Estonia have also joined the mission. Key lessons from Ukraine are feeding directly into Western planning as militaries across Europe prepare for the possibility of future conflict with Russia. This isn't just about helping Ukraine, it's about revolutionizing how NATO thinks about warfare. The training combines Ukraine's hard-won battlefield experience with NATO's institutional knowledge and resources. Ukrainian soldiers share real combat insights about everything from surviving artillery barrages to countering drone attacks, while Western instructors provide systematic training methodologies and access to advanced equipment. One Ukrainian soldier, going by the call sign Athlete, had several years of experience in the Ukrainian Armed Forces during the 2010s and was a professional sportsman in civilian life. He rejoined the military on day one of Russia's full-scale invasion, leaving his athletics career behind. For Athlete, Operation Interflex provides an opportunity for Ukrainian soldiers to train in calm conditions and build basic knowledge to take back to Ukraine. We share in the experience of foreigners, so we learn something from them, and they learn from us, he said. That mutual learning doesn't come without challenges. Sometimes we have disagreements with the UK and partner instructors, but eventually we reach a common view on how we should conduct instructor training, Athlete acknowledged. However, compared with the challenges Ukraine faces on its own soil, he makes clear that any challenges as part of Operation Interflex can hardly be called challenges at all. The program is set to continue until at least the end of 2025, with ongoing discussions about potentially moving some training operations into Western Ukraine itself. Such a move would represent a significant escalation in Western involvement and could send what Ukrainian military sources call a powerful military political signal to other nations and Russia. The success of Operation Interflex challenges traditional assumptions about military training and expertise. It proves that institutional knowledge and battlefield experience, when combined effectively, can produce results greater than the sum of their parts. This isn't just about Ukraine's war against Russia, it's about the future of warfare itself. The lessons being learned and shared through Operation Interflex are reshaping military doctrine across the NATO alliance. Western militaries are rediscovering the importance of large-scale conventional warfare, trench combat, and defense against peer adversaries. The program also demonstrates how smaller nations can contribute meaningfully to collective defense. Countries like Finland bring specialized expertise in forest warfare, while Lithuania and other Baltic nations contribute knowledge about operating near Russian borders. What makes Operation Interflex truly remarkable is its humility. Rather than imposing Western military doctrine on Ukrainian forces, it creates a space for genuine exchange of knowledge and experience. Western instructors acknowledge what they don't know and learn from soldiers who've been fighting for their nation's survival. This approach has produced tangible results on the battlefield. Ukrainian forces trained through Interflex have demonstrated improved combat effectiveness, better survival rates, and enhanced tactical capabilities. The program has quite literally changed the equation of the war. As the conflict in Ukraine continues and tensions with Russia remain high, Operation Interflex represents more than just a training program. It's a model for international cooperation, a laboratory for modern warfare, and proof that sometimes the best teachers are also the best students. The unusual dynamic of experienced Ukrainian soldiers learning from Western instructors who lack similar combat experience has created something unprecedented, a training environment where everyone is both teacher and student, where doctrine meets reality, and where the sum truly is greater than its parts. In a war full of surprises, perhaps the biggest surprise of all is that this unconventional approach to military training is working exactly as intended. Thanks for watching, and if you want to stay updated on developments in Ukraine and European security, be sure to subscribe for more in-depth analyses.